Hi everyone, my name is Sam. I'm your host for this section. This section, Cristiano will talk to you about the different example of formula in action, the new formula in Excel, by using the 18 new Excel function that will unleash the power of your report and control. If you love Excel function, you cannot miss this section.
Hi everyone! I'm very glad to be here on the Excel Virtually Global 2022. This session is Quick Tricks with New Excel Functions. My name is Cristiano Galvao and I will be the speaker for the next 45 minutes. First, let me introduce myself a little bit. I am Microsoft MVP in the category M365 Apps and Services. This is the category that Excel belongs to. I'm also content creator on the Excel Turbo channel on YouTube, and I have accounts with the same name on Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. I provide content related to Excel in Portuguese and English there. I'm also the organizer of the Excel Weekend, a conference that started local in Brazil and now is a hybrid event. My education is in informatics with bachelor and other courses. I have an MBA in management and marketing, and now I am studying a second MBA course, data science and analytics, at the University of São Paulo. As my job, I lead workshops and training for companies in English and Portuguese, online and locally. Now, let's see some 18 new functions in Microsoft Excel that will help you unleash the power of data analysis and many other usages on spreadsheets. This is the summary of the 18 new functions that we are going to explore in this session. We have some text functions, wrap functions, selection functions, lambda, and lambda helper functions. Let's get started with text before. Let's suppose you have a code like this and you want to extract all the content before a delimiter, in this case, a slash. In the past, you probably used texts to columns or a combination of different functions like search, find, left, mid, len, right, whatever. Now it's very easy to do the work by using text before. Look at this. Equal text before your code and the delimiter. That's it. Easy, right? Let's see another usage. Name and last name separation. It's basically the same. Text before, the full name, and the delimiter on this example is a space. Done. Very easy. Sometimes in a data set, you could end up with some examples of only first name or only last name. On that case, you would end up with the not available error message. You can also avoid using this without wrapping with the classic if error. The function counts on a parameter called if not found. So you simply do this and you don't have error anymore. When you have the full name again, you have the result. Text after. You can do a similar stuff for all the content after the delimiter by using text after. So you do the following. Text after your code, the delimiter, and that's it. The same for the other content below, but the delimiter is different. That's it. You have more parameters here for the case you have more than one delimiter. the instance number. Let's suppose you want to cut by using one of these dots here. So text after the code dot period. It is cutting on the first instance. Let's change a little bit. Number 2 instead. This time is cutting at the second instance. All right. Text split. Now let's suppose you want both before and after. Instead of using the two functions you saw now, you can use text split. Let's see. Text split, the code, and the symbol. It looks like the result is wrong, but it's actually the size of the column that we can adjust here. As you can see, we have two results. This is a dynamic array result, so the formula is splitting two results with one single function. We can do the same for the name and last name, but in this case, the delimiter is a space. So we have in different columns the given name and the family name. That's what the text functions can do. It was way more difficult in the past, and it's really simple to do the work now. Wrap calls. I have a vector on the horizontal direction containing 30 numbers. I want to wrap this vector in regular pieces. So I'm going to use the WRAPCalls function. Let's see. Equal WRAPCalls. I'm going to select the vector and the wrap count that consists in the amount of numbers I will end up having in a column. So the vector, and let's suppose 10 numbers per column. Enter. I have 5, 7, 4, 8, exactly the same sequence, but they will stop when we have 10 numbers. Then I have another 10, another 10, and that's it. I can specify different numbers here. For example, 7. In this case, all the sequence will finish here, and I will have not available error message here in the end. We can avoid the error message by using one of the parameters. It's the pad width. I can use blank. I can use a number as well. All right. This is the WRAPCalls function, and there is another function that is similar, the WRAPROWS. WRAPROWS. I have another vector, but now in the vertical direction. I want to wrap it into rows. So I'm going to apply WRAPROWS. First, I get the vector, and then I define how many numbers I want inside each row. In this case, let me try 4 numbers per row. All right. It's working without errors, but it's not very clear that the 4 numbers are meaning these 4 here instead of vertical numbers. So let's try now 5 numbers instead. Now I can see that I have 5 numbers here defined by the function, and I have some error because of the size of the resulting array. So let me use the pad width. I'm going to use 0, and then I have all the zeros here in the end. This kind of function has many possibilities and can be used, for example, to build a calendar. The primitive calendar would be something like this. WRAPROWS, and I have a sequence of the days. Let's try 30. And I'm going to wrap into rows containing 7 days to build my calendar. This is the classic. This is the start, the beginning of a calendar, but let's hide the errors here. All right, it's becoming better, but not always the month starts on Sunday. Maybe it's Wednesday. On this case, let me try to tweak a little bit here the last day. Let me put +3 so that I have extra days here. But I will compensate the beginning, so -3 outside of the sequence. Now I have the chance to play with the numbers. If I have two definitions, one, the number of days per month, I can use the EOMonth function to get this dynamically. And about the start of the month, the weekday, I have the weekday function that I can use in this place. Let me try an if function just to remove the zero and negatives so that I have a cleaner result. I'm going to use the if function. So, WRAPROWS sequence, it's the same, all right? -3, the number should be the same. 7 because of the columns. No error in the end. But if this function here is below 1, I will use the same result of this function. If not, it's blank. So to avoid repeating the function, I'm going to use let function. So my letter X will be defined as the WRAPROWS. All right. And then I'm going to say if X is less than 1, blank. If not, bring me the result of X. And then I have our calendar here. All right. This is the beginning. You should count as well on E of month and weekday to prepare the beginning and the end of the calendar. To call, this one is very simple. Let's suppose you have the content here that you want to transform into a single column. So, to call all the array, and if you finish here, this will be your result. The reading direction is this, and then the other rows. Empties will be translated as 0, but you can also ignore. If you use the other parameters, you can have here the default, keep all values, or you can also ignore blanks, ignore errors, or ignore both blanks and errors. Let me use this one here. And now I have the first two numbers, then skipping to this here, and then 100, 110, and the following. I can also change the direction of reading to this one here instead. To do that, I'm going to change the default scan by row to scan by column. So let's put true. And then the result is different because here are the first numbers, then skipping to the other here, 140, and all the rest. All right. This is the to call. To row. Now I have to row, which is pretty similar to the other. And let's try to row all this area. And it's the same as before, but on this case, the result will spill to the other direction. It's a line, it's a row. So you have the same parameters, for example, to ignore blanks and errors. You don't have the zeros here. And then you can change as well the direction of reading. So scan by column if needed. You have 190, 120, and 100, the others here on this direction. This is the to row. CHOOSECOLS. By using this function, CHOOSECOLS, you can bring specific columns from a given range or data set. Look at this. CHOOSECOLS, the array, and number 5, for example. By using this, you are bringing the column number 5 from the range. One thing that I love in this function is that you can choose other columns as well. Maybe 3, maybe 1. And they come in the order you put inside the function. You can use sequence to bring 3 sequential columns: first, second, and third. You can use interesting formulas to bring, for example, the even columns. Look at this. So the column 1, the column 3, the column 5, the column 7, as you can see here. Or you can remove the -1 and you have, you can remove the -1 and reduce the number here because we don't have column 8. These are the column 2, the column 4, and the column 6. You can use these in different needs, including charts that will become dynamic according to the formula that you are using and the references inside. Choose rows. Choose rows will be similar. So let's get started with the function. Choose rows from this region, then 5. Let me put the numbers here just to help the explanation. And here is the row. Pretty easy. We can use the sequence again. Let's tweak a little bit. Let's try negative numbers. -1. -1 is the last row. All right. If I put -3, is this here. It's the third from the bottom to up. All right. We can use also the sequence. Let's try negative now. So this is the reverse sequence until here. If I put all the 13 numbers, I have the reverse data set here, from bottom to up. These are some of the things we can do with the CHOOSEROWS function. Take. Take function will lead you to this kind of result. Take array the rows you want, for example, 10. 10 rows, you have the 10 first rows of the data set. You can specify the numbers of columns as well, for example, 3. So you are taking only 3 columns and 10 rows. You can use negative numbers, for example, -3 in the columns, and you have the last 3 columns, but the first 10 rows of the data set. If you use negative numbers here, you have now the 10 last rows, but you have also the 3 last columns because both are negative. Drop. The drop function comes to discard information. Drop the data set here, and let's try 3 rows. So number 3. This is the result. If the number is positive, I am discarding, I am dropping the first 3 rows. Look at here. These are the same numbers. If I want to discard or if I want to drop the last 3 rows, I just need to put the number 3 as negative, -3. So I have the beginning, but not the rest. I can use the same concept here to discard the first column, for example. So here you have the same numbers. If I use -1, I have the last column dropped. This is the drop function. Expand. The expand function comes to help you create dynamic array references based on simple range like this. You cannot do this here because this is not a dynamic array yet. All right? So, if you want to create a reference like this, you should first create a dynamic array, and then to do all kinds of calculation, you should do this here. All right? But sometimes you want a larger data set, not only the original size. That's why sometimes you would need expand. So expand the original array, then the number of rows, let's see 50. I won't mention columns because I want the original columns only. So now I have 50 rows, and you see the error here because of the size. I can use the pad width parameter to make sure I have empty results, or I can use also 0 to fill out with zeros if I want. All right, and then I can create a report here by pointing to the corner using the hashtag symbol and whatever I want to calculate after. All right, I can expand the number of columns as well. I just need to come to the right parameter and then do the same here. This is the expand function. Lambda. Now my favorite function in Excel so far, Lambda function. Lambda function comes to help you create custom functions without using VBA. Let's suppose I want to create a calculation to the hypotenuse of a right triangle. If I try doing the following, I will end up with a name error because the name hypotenuse is not defined. That's why I'm going to use lambda to create a function to calculate the hypotenuse of a triangle without mentioning the own formula again and so on many times. I'm going to use the advanced formula environment to create the function. So inside the editor, I'm going to use hypotenuse equal lambda, parentheses, and the function will be based on this formula, which is the classic formula from the math. The inputs will be A, B, and the calculation is the letter C. I won't mention C here, just the formula. This will be the formula. Let me synchronize. And now, if I come to the column, I can type here hypotenuse A, B, and this is the result. All right, let me format. And now I have all the calculations and I can use hypotenuse again in the same workbook, always when I need, without worrying about how to calculate again. I just need to remember the name hypotenuse. Bycall. Bycall is one of the Lambda helper functions that will help you build reports. Let's suppose you want to apply a calculation over all these numbers, but by doing this each column at a time. You can use the bycall function. This will be the array, and the function will be a Lambda function. The first parameter will be the number coming from the array. Now, let's suppose I want a simple summary. So I'm going to use sum x and close all the parentheses. And here I have the results. If you want double check, let's use here the alt equal so you can see the numbers are the same. Of course, you could use this to create more complex calculation, like, for example, 3 multiplied by the average of all the columns, all right? And even more complex, of course. But the essence here is that you can calculate any array by considering the columns separately. By row. The by row function is similar. Let's see it in action. By row, the array, and then I'm going to apply a lambda function to summarize by row. Lambda x sum x. This will give me the summary of all the numbers by row, and you will see that the results will spill in the vertical direction. Of course, I can do any kind of calculations here, like, for example, the deviation. And you can do lots of good reports with this function. Map. The map function will help you apply a lambda over each value from a data set or from a range. Let's see. Map array. And then I'm going to invoke a lambda here. Lambda x, where I'm going to use some calculation like 3 multiplied by x minus 1. This is the result of the same calculation applied over each one of the values of the array. Scan. The scan function will also apply a calculation over each one of the elements from any array. But there is a difference when we use scan instead of map. The scan function brings an accumulator. Let's see. Scan initial value, let's see 1000. Then I get the array and the lambda function. The lambda function will have also an accumulator. So instead of x, you start with the accumulator and then the variable passed from the array. Now let's do the following. I'm going to take the accumulator plus the element. I close lambda, I close scan, and try. Here, the first element is 0, but the accumulator inside my function is 1000. When I come to the second cell, I'm getting the result, the previous calculation, 1000 plus 500. Then, with 200 more, I have this result until 2000. The direction of the scan is the same as map, which is the same as the reading direction until the very end of the array. Reduce. Now let's try reduce over this data set. Reduce. The initial value will be 1000. This will be the array. And the lambda will come with the accumulator, with the element, and the calculation that I'm going to apply. Let's do something simple here. This is the result. What is the difference between reduce and the scan? As you can see, the final result of scan is the same of reduce if we use the same function inside lambda. The only difference is that scan will display all the intermediate results, while reduce will give me only the final result. Now, let's see a quick case where I'm going to apply some of those functions combined. We have this different data set here based on a key column concatenated with pipes. We should split each key to bring different columns. All right, we could use text to columns or function. Let's use function. Text split. This key here and the delimiter will be the pipe. All right, so you think it's easy, let's do the same with the full column, okay? The entire column here by clicking this position. Just press enter. Oops, we have only the first column resulted by the split process. This is happening because the result is an array of arrays. We could try CHOOSECOLS, maybe CHOOSECOLS, and the second. But it doesn't work. I'm going to give you a trick here. Look at this. Let's concatenate these values here. All right. We cannot see the difference between rows and columns because now we have lots of pipes. So let's include a new element to define what is an end of a field. Something here. So let's try this here. All right. Now you can see one row, another row, and so on. You can use the text split function to split both columns or rows. This is what we are going to do here. So let's do it in a separate cell so that it's easy to understand the process. Text split, this guy here. The column delimiter will be the pipe, but the row will be the semicolon. All right, it works. So let's do all the solution in a single formula. This time, I'm going to include the entire column. All the elements are concatenated with the symbol that will define a row. All right. And then I'm going to use the text split with the column separator, which is the pipe, and the semicolon, which is the row. We could use different separators as well. All right. This is the result of the true text split over an entire column. And we could use even more new functions to recreate the table. For example, we could use vstack, which is not included in the 18 new functions of this presentation, but I could do it now. So vstack will be a vertical stack. I'm not officially including because it is still in beta. But let's do it here. Concatenate is like a concatenation, but it's a stacking operation, right? We cannot say concat here. All right, I told vstack, but the vstack is stacking in the vertical direction. All right, so it's not vstack. It's hstack. So horizontally, I'm getting an operation over the keys, and side by side, I am stacking the columns sales and rating. This is the recreation of the data set. Now, let's define a lambda function to solve this problem without having to think again about the solution. I'm going to copy the formula. I'm going to delete here and enter the advanced formula environment. Let's zoom in and let's create a report function. Let's paste the formula here. Remove the equal sign from inside the hstack. Let's include some line breaks and indentation. Text split here. But wait, hold on. We need the inputs, right? The inputs will be the data set, the key column, the other columns. All right. So here at this point is the key column. Here are the other columns. All right. Let me fix the parentheses. It's something missing here or not? hstack text split. Let's use some line breaks so that we can see it better. Concatenation here. All right. Column, row, and this is the parenthesis of the text split. Other columns from the hstack, And this is the true parenthesis of HStack. And now I'm going to sync. All right. Equal report, the data set. Let's see the formula here from the formula bar. Now the key column. And now the rest of columns of the rest. All right. Now a second bonus for this session, the VStack in real action here. VStack function applied inside this function here. We are going to include the headers as well. So vertical stack, VStack. We are going to include the headers and all the rest. We should bring the headers as well. I want the headers before. Sync. Of course, we have an error message here. Let's move to the top and bring the headers as well. Comma, enter. Now I have this here. I have an error because the sales and rating are not actually these results. We should include year, category, product, and then sales and rating will come to the end. Let's go back to the formula editor, and here, together the headers, we should bring a fixed result here. The result that we are going to write down here hard-coded should be stacked in the horizontal way together the headers. So we have another H stack here with something and the headers. Let's remove the headers here and synchronize. As you can see, we have a blank here inserted before the headers. So we could put more. Instead of these, we should use year and category. All right. But I don't want key. So let's bring all the real labels here. Product, sales, and rating. This will be my result. And I just need the report function. You could create also variations of this function, allowing you to write custom headers instead of something hard-coded like this here. That's it. I hope you liked this session and find new ways to apply this content in real situations in your job. Don't forget to fill out the survey. This will help us to evolve and improve your experience in the next editions of Excel Virtually Global. The Microsoft Excel team is seeking research participants. If you want to engage with Microsoft to help improve this spreadsheet software that we love so much, consider joining this program through the website or QR code on screen. This is the end of the session. Find me on LinkedIn and feel free to connect. Send me a message telling that you came from this session, and I will be glad to hear what you are doing with Excel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cristiano, for the very insightful session with the quick trick with the new Excel function. So there's a few questions in the from the audience. So I just read the question. Hi, Cristiano. Can you unmute the microphone? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Cristiano not available to do the Q&A because he in really noisy play at the moment. So you feel free to send in the question with the link here and give him the feedback. So we Cristiano typing something. If you had any question, please write the question here on the Q&A. Then Cristiano can write the answer here. Then I just read the answer for you guys. If you guys don't have any question, as we mentioned in the publish, there's a new link to the new team meeting because this session gonna expire soon. The team limit only allow to do the hosting for like 13 or 12 hours. So if you go to the publish in live event Q&A, you will see the link to the Excel virtually global. You choose Tuesday, 18 October for the next section. Thank you.
Hi, Sam. Hi, everyone. I think I found a quiet place here now. Feel free to ask, and I answer by the microphone if you want.
Hi. Hi, Cristiano.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. So there just one question from the audience right now. So they ask, is there a new function that can perform a cumulative sum in a matrix of an array?
Yeah.
Can you help me with this question?
Yeah, it's the scan function that performs, let's see, a scanning process from inside an array, and it has an accumulator and a variable to perform the elements reading. So you read the element and you accumulate the sum until the end. So it's accumulated sum, a little similar to the map function, but at the end you have the total sum.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, if people can access the recording later, they will be able to see the scan function presented here. But anyway, it will be a pleasure to complement any example about scan on YouTube or LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Any questions, feel free, and I'll be glad to answer. That is one very interesting from, let me check again, from Talia. That one, I don't know the answer now, but I'm thinking about it, and it's a very interesting case. I'm playing around with some spreadsheet here, and I'm going to produce separate content to answer her or him.
Please allow me to read the question to the audience, okay?
Sure, sure.
So TC had asked that, do you happen to know how to fill down or write with the dynamic array? So if a column had many blank or zero in the middle, how can you fuse those blank value with the top value? So it basically is similar to fill down and up with Power Query, but you do it in the formula style.
Yeah, very interesting, and I'm very curious about it. I didn't work with this scenario yet, but using dynamic arrays, of course. But it's very interesting, and I'm playing around with some formula here to create an answer on LinkedIn or YouTube.
Yeah, that's really interesting question as well, I think.
Yeah.
Anyone had any other question? So we had another question here. If we use the function in Google Spreadsheet, will the user able to manipulate the file?
On Google Sheets?
Yes, Google Sheet.
Oh, I don't use Google Sheets, sorry. I use only Excel.
Yeah. So there's another question here from Anonymous. So what were the Excel resource URLs next to the last slide?
Okay, Excel research. It's a research that Excel does with, that Microsoft Excel team does with the audience to understand the behavior, users' behavior, users' preference, and they may send surveys, or they may send you a question to hear your opinion. So on the website, they have the terms, and you find more information about it. But usually they invite you to some survey, and then you provide some answers based on the behavior, your preferences.
That's certainly interesting. And we had a look into it later on. So for anyone who didn't notice that we had a new link to the new meeting, the team meeting, because our team session only lasts for like 12 hours or up to 13 hours. So please use the new link to access to the next section if you want to hear more from Excel Virtually Global.